As a co-founder of Civisol, I'm honored to be part of this discussion on building peace. Thank you to the other panelists who've gathered here today. My apologies I can't be there in person. And a thank you to Adriana, whose dedication to justice is an inspiration to many, most certainly myself. I work at the Kairos Center for Religions, Rights, and Social Justice in New York City. Our mission is to draw on the strengths of religions and human rights to contribute to social struggles for the realization of these rights and to catalyze a broad-based social movement to end poverty. We are often asked why we've taken up poverty as the core focus of our work, when there are so many violations of rights existing in the world. This is because we understand the polarity of wealth and poverty to be the defining issue of our time. In a world where 62 people have the same amount of wealth as 3.6 billion people, and where hunger persists even though we produce enough food to feed every man, woman, and child on this earth. In other words, in a world where abandonment exists alongside abundance, the fact that poverty persists indicates that we're not just in an economic, social, and political crisis. We are in a profound moral crisis. Another question we are asked is, how can the United States be the center of an effort to end poverty? It is true, we exist and work in the wealthiest country in the world with unparalleled economic, military, and cultural resources. Yet poverty exists in our land of plenty. Nearly 1 in 2 people in the United States is poor or low income. And in the US, just as in anywhere else in the world, being poor means being hungry, homeless, jobless, underemployed, and vulnerable to discrimination, exploitation, oppression, and exclusion. In other words, being poor in the US is a gross violation of our basic human rights. Imagine being hungry in a country where 40% of the food that is produced is wasted, or homeless in a city like New York City or Philadelphia, where there is enough vacant housing to end homelessness, or working as many hours as you can and still not being able to afford rent. This is the reality for more and more people and families living and working in the United States. Yet this common condition of being poor, of being made poor, of being impoverished, is skillfully masked in the United States. We are constantly fighting against ourselves and our interests, believing the myths that we are the causes of these problems, or that another group of people who don't look like us or don't sound like us are. So a large part of our work at the Kairos Center is to work with a wide range of organizations, including churches, community-based organizations, and grassroots organizations of the poor and dispossessed, who are engaged in struggles around hunger, homelessness, healthcare, education, discrimination based on race, gender, immigration, militarism, and ecological devastation, and who we bring together as the front lines in the broad struggle against poverty. Our vision to unite these struggles is inspired by the vision offered by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at the end of his life, which was to unite the poor across racial lines, the poor Black, white, and brown people of the United States, to build a poor people's campaign. This is a part of his history that is not well known, even in the United States and certainly globally, the part of his life where he moved from being a civil rights leader to a human rights leader. 1 year before his death, in his famous Beyond Vietnam sermon, King said, "We as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society. When machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people, the giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It is not haphazard and superficial. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring. A true revolution of values will soon look uneasily on the glaring contrast of poverty and wealth. A nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death." King was killed before this vision was realized, but we see ourselves as carrying forward this legacy with many, many others and building globally today. Because of the role the US government has played in supporting oppressive dictatorships, repressive governments, and in promoting exploitative policies, we think it is particularly important to work with and learn from our partners throughout the Americas. It is delicate work negotiating cultures and histories, but we have seen that bringing people together is not just possible, it is necessary. But what this means is fundamentally reconceptualizing how we work together across borders and rethinking what the basis of this global unity is. It must go beyond simple notions of solidarity to really understand that our struggles are interconnected and interdependent, that if we don't all win, none of us win, so that we can't be pit against each other. This implies a revolution of how we understand human rights, so that they go beyond winning our own struggles to addressing how the whole of society is organized. That we are all, to borrow the words of Lilla Watson, bound up in our common liberation, and that unless we get there together, none of us are truly free. This is the revolution of values that King raised in 1968, and we carry that legacy forward today. From Colombia to New York City, these kinds of global and transnational exchanges are fundamental towards building the understanding and connection we very much need to build towards this unity and pave the way for a common liberation. Thank you.